know you know the cigars, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, how you been, man? How's everything?
Good, good. You know what I mean? We was down here in H-Town trying to do it big.
Yeah, and I know you are, my brother.
Yeah, handling that business, that's all.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I had to catch you, man. I see you're a busy guy. That means you're doing big things. Mhm.
I tell you what, I may not be doing big things, but I'm committed to my purpose.
Yeah, I
I
like
mean,
that.
that's what I do.
Power speak. Facts, man. Well, Doc, so I had to get you on because, you probably been paying attention. I've been doing these podcast video series, and they've been going well. They've been working out well, man. I typically get people on that I admire, people that can tell a good story, something that I can put me in a position to get out substantive content to my audience. You know what I mean? And I feel like you're where you are and who you are. Uh, you sat in a very unique position for many reasons, and I've always admired you. And it's just simply for me about having a discussion, just talking and getting out of content out there to other people, and sharing that same love to everybody else. Man, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah.
One thing I gotta acknowledge, the elephant in the room first though, is I see you got your Cowboys information behind you there. I appreciate your loyalty. How you feeling about your boys?
Yo, let me tell you something, man. Them dudes, they kill me, man. I remember, I remember when I first met, I was like, yo, I said, man, how the hell you like them damn Ravens?
Yeah.
He was like, I don't know. I said, man, I've been with my Cowboys all my life, man.
Yeah.
And they cabbage.
Yeah, it's tough right now. But I tell people, y'all gotta. I mean, it's bad right now, but you gotta give McCarthy a little time. You can't expect him to come in 6 games and change the world, right?
I don't have that. So I really was like that until I started hearing this rumbling of like all the like we had your boy, the defensive coordinator dude. I was like, yo, he a noodle, man.
Nolan.
Yeah, Nolan, that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. He's
yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
He's terrible.
They might have to make a change with him, but
Yeah.
I feel like you give McCarthy a little time, you get guys to buy into a system, you guys might be all right.
I hope so, man.
Yeah. Well, hey Scott, so got you on the podcast just to give people a quick understanding of who you are, your background, where you from, and just talk quickly to your come up.
So my come up is humble. I don't necessarily say I don't like to say where I'm. So I'll say where I'm from is the Milton Hershey School,
Mm-hmm.
because I think I went there in second grade, and Milton Hershey School is what gave me the tools and the opportunity that had I been where I was born and raised, I wouldn't be here talking to you now.
And just for those who don't know, that's Harrisburg, PA, right?
Yes.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. All right, go ahead.
Yep. And what people want to, I think so often people kind of are connected with this deficit model. Like I align with Corey because we Black and we come from the same conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like for us to think or to be positioned on this kind of trajectory model, upward trajectory model where, you know what I mean? We might have all came from here, or we might be able to align with coming from here, but I just want to expect better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a whole different type of vibe for me.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes a lot of sense, man. And I think we get stuck in that, right? And
Yeah.
I think to your point, we feel like we got to stay connected or with people just because we can identify them with respect to like you said, whether if it's having the same humble beginnings or because we're both African Americans, but we don't look at merits and we don't look at like, you know, the fact that that person is pushing it forward, and that's why we connect as opposed to those other things. Is that more or less what you're saying?
Yeah, because yeah, that is it. But quite frankly, what ends up happening is there's this notion or this conditioning that says we have to be aligned with the criminality of our condition.
Mm.
Me and Corey, that's how we got to be aligned. Instead of, we could be aligned through some shit like because both of our mothers was elders in the church.
Gotcha.
And we start there, and then that's the jump off. The
Right.
jump off because you and I we can exchange stories about running from, living in the projects and running from, okay, I guess,
we made it out of it.
Exactly. That, I'm saying, so let's talk about that. That's what, so it's what you were saying, but the reason why I make the sandwich a little different is because I want to make sure that people understand that, this whole deficit model, man, it got us, there's over 400 murders in the city of Philadelphia. For what?
Yeah. Right.
For what? 66 days to go to the end of the year, and we got 400 plus murders in the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you attribute most of that to, Scott? Dr. Scott?
To be totally honest with you, man, there's a level of hopelessness. You know this, like I had custody of my son since he was like 5 years old, man. And he been with me, I'm saying, ever since. That's a little different for the man to get that. But I don't know if it's different or if it's just that other circumstances aren't exposed. But again, I'm staying away from that deficit model to say it's a little different, like I'm on this island and I'm a victim, but no. So I say that to say, I don't know if there has to be more men, but there damn sure got to be more discipline.
Yeah.
Because you train. My son still would call you Mr. Corey. He's 28 years old because I bust his ass, and he knows that. And so, like, I couldn't imagine my son, me, walking around the street doing that. Man, I'd be to mop the whole building up with him. And I just don't know. So I don't claim to know what the answer is. What I do claim to is that we got to do better. I expect better.
Yeah.
I know that. I know what the expectation is. I may not know what the reason is because it's just hopelessness and despair, and I don't know, man.
We just want to stay seeped in that. So like,
it's cool. It's cool to be like that.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't get. And people just become accepting of that. They don't want to do different. They don't feel, and I feel like a lot of it is society doesn't, and you shouldn't wait on this, and this is, I think, what makes you and I different, is society doesn't tell them that they could do different because the upbringing doesn't give them the hope and the reality that they could be better. They could do things that are more positive, more uplifting for themselves and their communities. You know what I mean? What's your thoughts on that?
So I do think, I'll say this.
Yeah.
I do think society gives them the opportunity to see themselves better and differently. But here's what I say. There's this affinity for this code that says we gonna keep it real, we gonna keep it at 100, and we gonna be real niggas and all this kind of stuff. And my challenge becomes, if you say that would indicate to me that you epitomize what real blackness is.
Mhm.
Right. So from this vessel, I'm gonna epitomize what real blackness is. And to me, that's what creates the fracture.
Yeah.
Because me and you could walk down the street, they not gonna rumble us.
Mhm.
They gonna shoot us.
Yeah.
And you know that, gang.
Yeah.
They're just gonna do that just on some GP.
Mhm.
So my point is, if you ask me, help me get something to eat, if that is the condition, go ahead on, take that, man. Go, y'all go ahead on it. Go ahead on. But I'm gonna need to teach you some skills so that now you can exercise and use some tools to get you something to eat without having to ask.
Right.
I mean, you feel me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do that. But go ahead on and get this pizza, man. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. So that brings me to this point, Scott, and I wrote out a couple things. So I was looking at some stats before I got on the call with you. Right now, the Black unemployment rate in this country is 22%. The national average, that's almost 2 times the national average. Why do you feel that is?
So I look at data a little differently.
Mm.
So when we're talking about the unemployment rate being 22%,
And it's 34% for Black women, by the way.
okay. So I look at that conditioning. So I don't look at data in that way. But here's what I will say.
Yeah.
I'll take your Trufitconsulting.
Yeah.
Right? It don't take an education for somebody to go create a platform, get certified in order to do what?
To be employed.
Exactly. So, but see, that's some simple shit though. And I don't mean to diminish what people are going through, because again, remember, we can all share stories of what we went through.
Yeah.
I'm the case, you know what I mean? And so the challenge for me becomes, like, I see those numbers, but I also see that there's an opportunity that you would help, you would franchise to other Black folks if there was Black folks in that space that would say, man, I want to do what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that.
Mm-hmm.
I know what exists. I know what exists, and I know it exists. But you don't report to nobody doing your Trufitconsulting platform.
Yes,
So you can't say, oh, it's the white man or it's the white boss. You, if you hustle and you get 1 million clients, you're gonna be a $10 million in air.
Yeah. So your point there, your general point there is, you feel like at some juncture, people have to take accountability for themselves. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I am, man, and that's no disrespect. It's just, but I mean, like you said, like those numbers say a thing.
Yeah.
But I know plenty of cats. I've even offered to have cats. I'm talking about my homies from round the way, homies. Yo, come on down here to shoot. Nah, man, I ain't going down there, man. Them niggas corny down there. Yeah, but you get a job, I get you a job, and boom, boom, boom. Okay, so then you know what I mean? Okay. Yeah. And that's no disrespect to none of my homies, but my point is that's just a personal experience, but I'm telling you that.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
I think that goes back to your original point about the condition, Black mind, the condition, and just, and I don't mean to make it a monolith, but that's something that we struggle with for sure. And I agree there. Yeah. Something else I feel is kind of aligned with that. I saw staggering. Like I saw another stat, 67% of people that go to college, they graduate, 42% of African Americans do. That's almost 20%. That's 25% less? What do you feel that comes from?
Yeah, well, you know,
you're an educator, so you should have, your perspective on that has to be really rich.
Yo, it's crazy because that's why I do what I do, and I'm working on that now, man. Yo, so I get hit up all the time for like, and I'm trying to get back to the East Coast. You know what I'm saying? Back to home base. King of Prussia, you know, that kind of area, but I haven't found the right opportunity. But I get hit up all the time for people that are having the inaugural or the founding chief diversity officer or vice president for diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
And dog, what I'm saying is I know that I've interviewed myself out of contention because they've said to me in the interview, so why University X? Why this position? Why now? And because I'm so committed to this work, I say, well, hell, y'all asking me traditional questions. Why did it take somebody to get murdered on TV? Yeah. See now you get rumped, and see that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so that's why the work is always heavy. That's why I'm like, yo, to these young brothers out here and out here clowning out in these streets, like I get it, but don't think that the cat that ain't out there doing that ain't doing some heavy lifting too. Because I'm checking these cats. Like, so in the 90s, when I was going to college, and this is the inaugural, when I told you that the right resources didn't exist, you didn't believe me.
Yeah.
So when you look at the attrition and the dropout rates, and you look at it now, it's 25%. Think about that as it's 25% as the Black population in college has increased with the white. But think about it back when we was in school, that 25% was 70% dropout rates, completion rates.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so now, this is the inaugural. So I, you know, in interviews, I've been like, so let me ask you a question. You asking me the traditional shit, but I gotta ask you a question. What the hell was y'all doing 10 years ago when y'all was recruiting Black and brown kids to y'all campus and didn't have the resources to help them persist?
Right.
And then they look at me like I'm crazy. But you're not gonna put me on a hot seat with these dumb traditional questions in this very pedestrian way of trying to tackle new reality. No.
You got to address the old one first.
So that's just, that's how I look at that, because I fight that battle all the time, man. And I'm very intentional about fighting that battle. Very intentional, because it's not okay.
Now, Scott, you are an educator. You're definitely somebody that has devoted your life to education and evolvement in that. And amongst everything that you just said, you still persisted. You still found a way to perseverance through a lot of those challenges. What do you feel attributed to that for yourself?
You know, like I said, I'm not gonna hold you, man. Like I said, man, if it wasn't for the Milton Hershey School, and the opportunity that it gave me, again, I'm not, listen, anybody that knows Milton Hershey School knows the circumstances that you have to come from to be a student at that school.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the strength of my mother recognizing there was an opportunity out there, I can't take care of you, boy, especially in these projects. You're gonna be grown. I wouldn't be here. So I gotta put that on Jeanette, my mom, my grandmom, and then Milton Hershey, dude.
Yeah.
It is what it is. That's where the initial deposit came from. I wasn't built for no prisons. I'm just not built for, you know, I'm not built for that. So yeah, I'm Jeanette, Thelma, Milton Hershey, period.
Yeah, that's love, man. So you talked about earlier, it took, you know, the unfortunate acts from like Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Ahmaud Arbery. That's just to name the recent few.
Yeah.
For people to wake up and understand that, you know, some change has been needed in this country. And something that always comes up when I have these conversations with people is the word implicit bias. And they feel like the reason why a lot of these things have happened throughout our country over the course of however many years stems from just this non-recognition of implicit bias and people not culturing and learning others. What's your thoughts and opinions on that?
Man, I mean, you touching on the shit that you know, my teaching points, man. But I'm gonna be real about this. Implicit bias exists in the lexicon, but implicit bias is a way out for accountability.
Mm. Mm.
White folks absolutely know when they're benefiting from their privilege.
No. Mm-hmm.
It's not bad, not good. It's reality. Implicit bias allows you to say, I wasn't even aware.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you were aware. Because I'm gonna tell you something, dude. There's no denying who we are. Like when we walk in the rooms, we just too dark skinned. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not one of our white friends would change places with us for an hour.
No.
No, I'm being real.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be you, Corey, for an hour.
Mm.
So no matter how big you get on your platform,
yeah,
and how many degrees I got or how big I get on my platform, not one person gonna be Scott Richardson for an hour.
Right.
Because they recognize, man, that shit is heavy. Think about that.
Yeah.
But when we say implicit bias, that's giving folks a way out. I think it's explicit bias without accountability.
Explicit bias without accountability.
Without question.
We're going to tag that. Good. I like that. I was looking today, man. It's funny because I feel like that mindset to some degree is what has, halted our progression in a sense. And I'll give one example, right? So the most recent example, we just had Amy Coney Barrett, inducted in as one of Supreme Court justices. And you listen and you talk to her, she sounds like a very intellectual individual. I don't take anything away from that. Sounds like she has a good understanding of the Constitution. She's a constitutionalist. She's an educator in that sense. And I can always appreciate that as somebody who, I like to consider myself an intellect as well. But then when I stepped back for a second, I said, but let me look at her resume. Let me look at her accomplishments, her achievements. And without really getting into it, she hasn't really accomplished a whole lot. This was simply, just to be frank, this is just a party liking what somebody has been saying to push their agenda, right? And it instantly makes me think, to talk about the conversation, if she were Black with that resume, with those achievements that she has, no matter how intellectual we may think she is, do you feel that it would be the same outcome? I don't like to do that, but sometimes you got to step back and just be like, really?
I mean, here's what I'll say to answer your question.
Yeah.
You got me on this podcast because you felt as though there was something, a modicum of value in what I may be able to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
I accept that humbly, right? Who are the decision makers that would determine, for example, that I would not have the ability? I'm being circuitous in answering your question.
Yeah.
But I would not have the ability to take an open position that they have at their university. Because if Corey's were at the table, there would be value in the person.
Right.
But because there's no Corey's at the table, watch this, there's values in the person.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's because there weren't Corey's at the table that Amy, right? So you get it? So that's where that value come from.
Right.
We might, if you was at the table, you might have been like, well, what the hell did you do?
Right.
But see, they don't have, you see what I'm saying? I mean, I'm trying to say it without, I mean,
Yeah, I get
don't
it.
know
I
what
get
your
it.
audience is. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I'm usually not the person to do that because, I've always been the person to speak because I'm proud of that. I'm proud to be Black in this country. And the reason and to some degree, obviously I'm not happy with our history, our historical value that we present to this country, but it's built us to who we are today. So the reality is already realities, right? Like, okay, 400 plus years, that's what we've had to deal with. But what that built is some very strong individuals. I feel that we're the strongest people in this country because of what we've had to endure. So I'm never the person to say, oh, well, they got it because of this or they got it because of that. But sometimes you got to step back. And I think understanding those realities is understanding how to change them too, right? Like you're making the point that if we want to change this, change the narrative in like a situation like Amy Coney Barrett, and I'm not taking anything away from her. However, like you said, if we want to change that, we have to start fundamentally making things change on our own, which begs the question. So all now, we're a couple days away from voting, and I was telling somebody the other day, I don't argue, debate, have discourse with people so much that differ from my opinion. I have arguments, discourse, and disagreements with people that are positioned the same way as me because we now get this narrative, oh, I'm not going to vote. It doesn't do anything for me. This country isn't for us. It's not going to change the Black agenda. What's your thoughts and opinions on that, Doc?
So what's interesting is I like to peel back the layers, right? I like to unpack shit and take all the stuff out the luggage and then start packing it back. And what I mean by that is this. When we take everything out the bag simply says we are a free democratic society.
Yep.
And it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. So what we're talking about when people identify these constructs that contribute to fracture is it's freedom with an asterisk.
Mm-hmm.
That's not freedom. If you don't vote, you gonna still be my man. If I don't vote, I should still be your man. We have enough things in the world, in society that contribute to the fractures between us than to identify one of the most prominent civil liberties as one that has this big asterisk on it. How about if my big asterisk, how about if I want mine put on equality? How about if Nancy want hers put on feminism? I mean, it just becomes more divisive than it is inclusive. And I'm all about inclusivity and the intersectionality around inclusivity. I mean, think of just strip everything away. Nah, yo, I get it, but then that's an asterisk on my freedom.
Right.
I chose not to do this. I got my reasons. I shouldn't even have to justify my reasons to you as a Black man or a white man.
So
go ahead.
I think that's an excellent point. But the way I look at it, and I don't know if it's pushback or what. I kind of look at it like there are just fundamental aspects of living in this country that are heavily weighed and impacted on how we vote. So what happens in our school system, how much taxes you get taken out of your paycheck every month, what's determined with your health care, what's determined with the rights that you have. You're talking about civil liberties and equality. I feel like if you don't vote, you're not standing in position to helping to fundamentally change those things. Do you disagree with that?
So I know that could be an outcome, but what I'm saying is, yes, the larger picture is I can't do that to the degree that I disenfranchise at the very end of the day, whether I vote or didn't vote. You and I are still looked at the same, and I would rather be aligned with you rather than defined by you.
Okay.
Because when I just said Nana and I just said Mom, guess who didn't vote? And they were some strong Black women.
Yeah.
We ain't know nothing about no voting in our house. We ain't do nothing like that. But it was my job to grow and become different in the space. And
Right.
I can have a perspective, but I don't want to be the contributor to what could exist as freedom with an asterisk. Yeah, I voted. But if you didn't, you still my homie.
Of course. Of course.
Well, I mean, we say that, but there's a lot of people that they take shots at your Blackness, or what you should do is being a real, you know what I mean? You ain't no, what, so we gonna contribute to what already exists?
Doc, I remember I was a part of a community center project in Philly, North Philly, a couple years ago, and I sat on a board. And basically, our job was to help rebuild the community center and bring the community together with programs, social programs. And I sat there with some really educated, successful Black leaders within those communities. And one of them, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago, one of them was a young, very enthusiastic history educator. He taught in a high school in the city, in the city of Philadelphia. And he and I got into it because he told me in his school, he only teaches African American history. You see, that's the only thing that he teaches. So he and I used to go back and forth about that all the time, and whatever, my opinion's my opinion. I heavily disagreed with that. But something I saw recently was about this 1619 project.
Yeah.
Times.
Yeah.
I asked you about that, and just to catch people up on what that is. Basically, that is the initiative, and you correct me here if I'm wrong, that is the initiative to prioritize African American history within our curriculums, right? Speak to your opinions on that.
So you're right, and I don't want to get too academic, because I think that tends to put it can put up a barrier, and that's not what I want to do. But you're right with what you say. But what ends up happening is in the 1619 project, it's not the project itself, because that is scholarship.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you look at this new executive order, you can't put a lock or a clamp on intellectual property or scholarship. That's to me, that's asinine. But here's the thing. I understand what you're saying when you say you and this guy were in a disagreement that he only teaches African American history, because the challenge for me is not a reaction to the landscape, which, because they only teach European American history, I'm gonna only teach this.
Yeah, right.
So that's the reaction, but it's about the response, which then goes to be the responsibility.
Yeah.
Not the reaction, because the response, you should be responding and then have a responsibility to respond, because you don't live in an all Black world.
Exactly.
So what kind of conversation are you going to say? So for example, Ice Cube dealing with Trump. If you don't know European history, then what the hell, whether you agree with Cube or not, he says he's doing something for us, the collective, but you got to know something about that other side of the bridge in order to have to do something with the collective.
Exactly.
It's not for me to judge that, man. So I agree with you, but that's what we do. We end up reacting, and you ain't helped the child out. So now we have a child going into a space with the anger of the history of Emmett Till.
Exactly.
Going into a space knowing what the landscape's like for young Black boys anyway, and he got that anger with him, and we set him up because that's the only deposit that we gave him.
Right. Right.
Again, that's what I think. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we should respond to the landscape, not react to it. And
right.
that's a reaction. Oh, well, they gonna teach that? Well, I'm gonna just teach that. Okay,
yeah.
good.
You still not winning.
That's my point. You ain't won nothing.
Right. yeah.
Because them same kids that you taught Black American history to only is them same jokers out in these streets in Philadelphia murdering each other.
Right. Exactly. And I think you make an excellent point. I feel like you can't be strong in any position if you don't have two sides, if you don't have an objective opinion either one way or the other.
Yep.
You know, so if you believe that black is the best color, and I'm just using this as an example,
yeah,
you got to understand why white isn't the best color. Like, you know, just using that literally in the terms itself. But like, yeah, I always disagreed with that, and I couldn't understand it. And like I said, he was a young educator, and I appreciated the fact that he was very intellectual in the sense that he wanted to expand. You could tell that he was a creative thinker and he wanted to do things differently. And I would hope today that he's probably different, because this was 5 years ago. So now he's, 6 years into educating, but I feel that he would be different today in his approach with that.
Yo, I'm gonna tell you something that's funny. Can I share something with you that's crazy? So I'm Northeast all day, right? So I come down here, Pennsylvania. And I'm talking to some dudes at this cigar lounge. These some black dudes. And Virginia, Maryland, that's not the South, dude.
Yeah.
This is the South. Like, this is the South. Like,
yeah.
I'm 50. I literally just left Galveston, Texas this past weekend, which is 15 miles from where I live in Houston. And I saw, this isn't the first time, but I just drove past the mansion where Juneteenth proclamation was given. Like, wow. We thought this is the South. All that shit, Northern Virginia is not the South. So let's get this squared away. let me tell you why I had to qualify it that way. Because I was talking with these brothers, they went to Tuskegee and all these schools, and I'm like, yeah, well, my son went to Chain. I'm talking about they acting like I'm like, yo, well, I pledged at Morgan. I'm like, yo, these schools was 100 years before y'all was in existence. This is what I'm thinking in my head. But I was telling them about how if you go up through Pennsylvania and go up into Buffalo, Rochester, New York, Underground Railroad, they didn't realize that the Underground Railroad was real.
Really?
See, I'm telling you what my experience was. And so now someone that'll hear this podcast will be like, oh, well, that's because they were some cool niggas. No. I'm telling you what exists out here, right, that we're putting I'm not talking about vote. Our vote on. I'm talking about cats from the South.
Yeah.
They did. I said, so you never. And I said, no. The Underground Railroad. He said, what they do? Like it was a railroad under. I was like, it's a metaphor, gang.
That's mind-blowing.
No. I'm gonna be straight 100 with you, and I was just like, but how y'all not knowing y'all went to Tuskegee?
Right.
Or y'all went to Texas Southern, or because I'm going back to the voting, Corey, because it goes back to, I want to make sure that we identify things that align us rather than fracture us. Because I could literally write you off as, oh, you one of them not knowing. I don't know how they don't know.
Yeah.
I was telling them about Valley Forge and the Battle of Valley Forge and the underground cavernous things and Stevens Technical Institute. They had no clue. They thought that was all makeup. And I was like, yeah, but y'all my age though. How did you do that?
And you know what I find too is cats that go to historically black colleges, they think that that's an instant like stamp on their blackness or
Yeah.
their understandings to our historical premise. And clearly that's an example of guys that not throwing any shade at them, but
exactly. No
it's all about
shade.
perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, like no shade. Like I couldn't believe I'm talking with 45-year-old men that didn't know that I was like, y'all, yeah, like that's real though.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like, no way, like what they were joking about. Oh, what she do? She was bending over again. I was like,
wow.
Blew my mind. So that's why I am vehemently against these qualifiers that determine and create the fracture. Because I'm like, dude, I know people that look just like me.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, of course the Underground Railroad is real. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm sure those people are still black and they have a black experience, but again, it just goes to show like that's an example. But I'm gonna write them off?
No. It's all about perspective, man.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to get us to understand, man. Get away from what doesn't bring us together and recognize. So that's the intersectionality in diversity, not inclusion. That's the intersectionality in diversity, because we are an affinity group and we have diverse perspectives within the same affinity.
Yeah. Right.
And that's why diversity is different than inclusion.
Inclusion. That's a good point. And that came together full circle, because that goes back to your central point. And so that makes me ask you the question then. So again, we're a week away from electing a new president of this country. And I think that most reasonable people can tell you that this country is, in my lifetime, more divided than it's ever been in my lifetime. Do you feel like a lot of those systems that are in place, or the things that you kind of just mentioned, do you feel like that's what's divided us? Or do you have a different point on that?
No, I do. I think a lot of these systems are in place and they've divided us. And I'm going to give you an example. I agree with you on that. And I am heavy on this because, people that are Republican or people that are Democrat are that way because Nana and Pop Pop were that way.
Yeah.
So at what point do we exercise our own voice?
Mm-hmm.
Like we can't even identify the qualifiers or the markers that says why I wanted to wear a black Puma sweatsuit today.
Yeah.
And so I struggle with that because these constructs exist. And they exist and we walk into them. And what we walk into and the different floors that we go up and the different information we get and we come back down and walk out of them depends on what our agenda is when we walk into them.
Yeah. Yep.
Like it's a strange thing.
To that point, because what I feel like what happens is people get stuck in their set beliefs.
Exactly.
Want to be told any different, even when facts, reality, personal experiences get in the way of it, they still stand stuck in those set beliefs, and it restricts our ability to start thinking on our own and understanding and learning and educating ourselves on. You're absolutely right.
No, you're right to the degree that, and it might be summer of 2021. I'm working on this research project. I'm to publish this article, and I don't really like to publish, but I like to publish at least once a year or once every other year, because what we're dealing with is a pandemic of a social nature and a racial nature. And we're trying to attack it intellectually, when what we need to be looking at is these are conditions of the heart.
Yeah.
What we're going through are conditions of the heart. So there's no fucking scholarship in books and panaceas that we can identify that can address these things. And there's no historical perspectives. These are conditions from the heart. Bob may not ever change.
Yeah.
I'm going to the next house for Halloween candy.
Right. Right. I got you.
But I'm not going to stay on Bob's porch and say, you know, it's Halloween. You should have some candy out here, mother. No. You laughing, but I'm dead serious because that's where we get stuck.
I'm laughing because of how you did that. That's a really good analogy, I think.
It's some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Yo, this is a condition from the heart.
Yeah.
If they don't want to give out candy, I'm bouncing.
Right.
I don't care books, nothing. Scholarship has nothing to do. We're talking about conditions of the heart, and we have these politicians trying to approach it as if we can rectify it with scholarship and programs and all this shit. Why not just fundamentally say, you know what, there's some fucked up motherfuckers out here, and we start the conversation that way, because that's what the hook understands.
Right.
Right? No disrespect to your audience.
No, it's raw, and I appreciate that. And I feel like what happens is you have that, but then you have, and I'm trying to state, you have certain people that are stoking those emotions out of people and giving them license to feel it the way that they do, while we're trying to come in and say, well, these people are just saying that they matter. You know what I mean? They're just trying to say that we should all be the same, and we want you guys to understand that we bleed just like you do, and we should have the same rights as you do, and we should be seen the same way. But then you got somebody else saying, no, you're good at feeling the way that we're fighting this like.
So that is the deficit model that I spoke to.
Yeah.
They fan the flames of the deficit model. They fan the flames of that. Go. Listen, I get it. But here's the thing, Corey. I'm a pragmatist, and I'm being very constructional. When we loot and burn down our neighborhoods, just hear me out, because I'm just trying to construct something. And Nana can't get her insulin tomorrow because the drugstore is burned down. Who's to blame?
Us. Or
no.
The looters.
Exactly. And I'm not even asking you to answer that.
Yeah.
But my point is, I was constructing something, because if Nana was important to me, I'm gonna make sure she get her insulin. And if the drugstore is shut down, if the drugstore is burned down, and now she gotta go from South Philly all the way up to Roosevelt Avenue to get syringes and insulin, and we bitching the whole way up there and the whole way back, but yet we just burnt down the CVS on Passyunk Avenue. Who has to take some responsibility for that, gang? Mm-hmm. No disrespect to the looters.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna need Nana to get that insulin, man. And so that's what's on my radar first. Then this, I'm going to jump on this energy that's out there, and we going to do this. Because then when all that energy died down and we got to amputate Nana's leg, okay, see you get it.
Yeah. No, I get that. Definitely. That's a great point, obviously. But I feel like what happens is people, they kind of use that narrative to deflect from the premise. They kind of use that narrative to deflect from having to think about, why things should change, or holding some accountability for not paying attention or not being part of change. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of where people are at. Like, then now there's no accountability held. There's no accountability on this way. There's no accountability on that way. And it leaves us stuck.
Yeah. Well, it leaves us stuck. And remember, deficit model, when we're stuck, they fanning
Yeah.
being in that. Okay, I'm just
Right.
you said it, but
Mhm.
I'm making the connection. They fanning that
Right.
because that's the ultimate in human conditioning is you get stuck. That's why
Right.
you have suicide, and that's why you have all these other outbursts and just fanning it.
Yeah.
And that's why you have joblessness, and that's why you have dropout rate. They just fanning it, fanning
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. You're
And
exactly.
then now you do something in response to the condition, you get labeled as that fucking gorilla.
Yeah. Right. Because context doesn't matter at that
I
point.
mean, think, listen, you said it. Hell,
Yeah.
you can do this podcast by yourself. You saying it. No, you saying it.
Yeah.
But we have to be intellectually disciplined enough to understand the shit that's going on.
Yeah. You're exactly right. So Scott, I'm gonna end it with the last question for you. So you're obviously somebody, like I said at the top, that I admired, and I not only admire you, but I admire your journey. What kind of advice could you give to anybody that wants to get themselves through tough situations to be at someday called Dr. Richardson or Dr. Brown or Dr. Smith? What's your best advice?
So it's simple for me, and I receive what you say humbly,
Mhm.
and I only shared a bit of my story because it don't matter.
Yeah.
But what I share with you for the question that you ask is, if not you, then who?
Mhm.
If not now, then when?
Mhm.
And if not here, then where?
Mhm.
Because it is time for people to make the kind of foundational and transformative decision-making changes that it's going to take, because they need to be able to see themselves 20 years down the line. Like, I'm gonna tell you something. I remember when me and you was lifting heavy,
Yeah.
and I said, man, I had to fall back on that lifting, man, because the shit, I mean, all the shit do is break your body. Then I got into CrossFit.
Yeah.
And I remember you shared a post. You was like, I got big and then couldn't figure out why I was that big. You remember when you were that authentic in that post on
Yeah.
Instagram? And
Yeah.
I was like, I tried to told him.
Yeah.
Because now we not gonna never be thin.
Right.
No. Hey dog, I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to be real.
Yeah.
We
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
just big niggas, man. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, I don't know what to say, but there was a time I'd have bit your head off. But now at 50, it don't matter.
No, I don't.
Lifting up the back of a Volkswagen, that don't matter no
Don't
more.
matter. Yeah. Well, let
I
me tell you. For me, I think what happened with me was anything I do in life, I take to the max, no matter what it is. I want to be the
Exactly.
best. I want to be the best. I want to be the most competitive. I want to win. I want to be better than everybody else. And when somebody told me that you lift, you eat, you supplement to get big muscles, I needed to be the biggest person to do that. And then like you said, at the end of it, I got to the end of the road, like, all right, I done reached that climax. Now what do I do? And everybody's looking at you like, well, yeah, you big, but that's it. You know what I mean? Like, so I just think my ego and my drive, my will to be the best. That's what got me through that.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I just wanted to share that because, someone that hears this needs to know how authentic everyone is. Like,
Yeah.
you and I, we're not on pedestals. We just sharing. I don't want nobody to hear this and think this contributes to a fracture.
No.
This is about perspective and opinion.
Yep. And if people knew the conversations that you and I have had privately,
Exactly.
to a
Outside
cigar,
of shit.
to some Balvini, some whiskey, then they would understand, But I think that just the information that we were able to put out here tonight on a recording that I can put out there on a platform to everybody else, I think is valued information.
I appreciate that. I would like to have that so that I can share with my audience as well.
Absolutely. You know, I got your back. Absolutely.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Well, Scott, man, I want to thank you, man, for jumping on. I do these too, not only for my platform, but I do it to catch up to people because you and I haven't spoken like this in a long time.
Since I left Philly.
Yeah, yeah. And there's some things obviously that's happened to me in my life to make me realize that I need to step back and look at my relationships. And so now this is going to propel me to maybe taking a trip out to Houston or something and catching up and really catching up.
Yeah, man, there'd be a whole lot. Look, we'd be at the beach,
Yeah.
we'd be smoking cigars and drinking bourbon. That's all I do. Because other than that, I'm on some intellectual type. I need to make change.
Yeah, say less, big bro.
Yes, sir.
Well, appreciate you, man. Love you.
Yes, sir. Love you too, gang. I'ma holla.
All right, you have a good night.
Yes, sir.